Hello. I apologize for being delayed today. Very, very busy day. But here we are and broadcasting live according to Google, so we must be. As I mentioned, today we're going to talk about Google Keep and its vast capabilities, which are pretty significant. And without further ado, let me start up this little presentation I got for you here. Let's see now. This will be right there. And there it is. Beautiful. Okay, so we're going to talk about Google Keep. And as you can see in the top little display up here, you can see that it looks like a little colorful piece of art. But it's actually a very useful application, especially when it comes to doing it for business. So I'm going to go ahead and get right into it. And so for people who have never seen Google Keep and don't know what it is, Google Keep is an extremely useful free little application that was written by Google. It's available to anybody who wants to use it at no cost. So it's a free application. It's available. It's pretty simple to get into it and to use it. There's a lot of things you can do with it, which we'll cover most of them today, if not all of them. And but at the same time, it's a very simple application to use. And as item number 2 there states, it's painfully capable. My personal opinion on the subject, but as you will see, I'll explain exactly why that is. And one of the nicest things and one of the biggest things about Google Keep is the fact that you can run it on all different devices that you might own in different computers. It's cross-platform compatible. So you can run it on a PC, you can run it on a Mac, you can run it on an iPad, you can run it on a Android tablet, you can run it on your Android phone. Basically, pretty much any device you have, you can run this on. And it's a web-based application. In other words, they don't have a PC local version, like, for example, Google Drive. Just to give you an example, that Google Drive is a web-based application, but also there is a native Windows version of it, which is synchronized with the web-based, so you can run it in either way. Google Keep is strictly web-based. So in other words, they have application for mobile devices, and they have application for, the actual web-based app, and also they have Chrome extension, which we'll cover that shortly as well. But it does not have a Windows type application available. You always bring up a browser, and that's how you use it, basically. So where it becomes extremely useful and helpful, of course, is the synchronization, is that it's done completely seamlessly behind the scenes. And so you can create your content on your phone, for example, and then you can easily access exactly the same content on your PC without doing anything in practically no time. It's not instantaneous, but pretty close in terms of how it syncs. So very handy. So what exactly is Google Keep? On its real basic, in its basic form, it's very similar to Post-it notes. As you can see in the picture there at the top of the screen, it's very similar. You got different colors, you got a little bit of text, so it's very similar to what you see. And so on my recent trip to Idaho, I was working for a client, and their desk looked like the picture in there. I specifically took a picture so you can see. You can see you got a little Post-it note written here. It's got some stuff scratched out. There is something written up here in the blue note. You've got some hidden underneath. It's a mess and a half, basically. And so also they had this board, cork board, it was just covered with all these notes. And so I gave them the instructions after showing them how to use Keep and stuff, gave them the instructions to eliminate all of these things and make it look like it's supposed to look. And so then they sent me a picture a few days after I left, showed me that their cover board is completely and totally free of any notes. And so I'm very proud of these guys for doing that, because that's exactly how it should be done. So with that being the case, why don't we go ahead and get into the meat of the thing. And since there's so many different things, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to switch over now to my phone here, and I'm going to pull up Google Keep on the phone and continue with my presentation talking about stuff from there. So it's going to be easier to deal with and explain exactly what it does. So on the surface, Google Keep itself, and what I'll do is I'll switch the screens here to go to pull this thing down and go to Google Keep here. So you can see my Google Keep up there. And so right now it looks like this. And if you run it on your end, you'll see something very similar. Essentially, what you have is you have ability to easily go in and create notes. So all you have to do is click up here where it says Add Note. And when you click on it, it immediately jumps into the typing mode. And I can type in, this is a simple note. And this is really all I have to do. And I can click Done, and I created my note. And you can see it's right there on the left side. It says this is a simple note. In addition to that, if I click on it again, I can edit it now. And I can also, as you can see, there's also a field called title. And oops, title. So I can go ahead and type in sample title, and now it's going to look like this. It's actually going to have a bold heading, and then it's going to have my note right there. Okay. Right there. This is simple title right there. In addition to that, at the bottom, as you can see, when you hover over these notes, at the bottom of the little bar that comes up, that you can do several things, and we'll cover all of them. But for now, I just want to show you the color deal. The color wheel here allows you to just simply select a different background color. So you select a color you want, and your note changes to that color. So also pretty, convenient and very simple way to color code things. And we'll get into the details as to why you want to do it later, since we're talking about organizing things. So obviously, having nodes being different color can certainly be one way to organize things. And that's basically as simple as this to learn how to create notes in Google Keep. It's not any more complex than that. You just click, type in your note, and you're done. So that's one thing. Second thing that they allow you to do is, in addition to where it says here Add Note at the top, you can also click on the little icon on the right side here, which is a checklist. And if you click on it, then it'll come up with the same kind of capability in terms of being able to type in text, but the difference here is that you're able to start typing a little list. Checkbox that's next to it. Okay, so I'm typing in a few items here that, let's say, like a shopping list, or it could be a task list, it could be any kind of list you want, and we'll call this thing shopping list, for example. Okay, so we'll give it like yellow background, orange background, and yeah, we don't want to buy any Hershey's Kisses. We want to buy Belgian chocolate cake. So buy Belgian chocolate cake. And over here, if there are some items, once I actually go and buy these things, and if I don't want certain items, I can simply delete them by I can get rid of them like this by simply clicking on the checkbox itself. As you can see, it moves it down to the bottom of the list, saying I'm done with a particular item. And also, there is I guess they don't have this capability on this Google Keep here. In the version that's for the, no, they do. It just doesn't show up immediately. Okay. As you can see on the right side, here's a little X. And so the little X allows you to delete items. So if I click on the little X next to the item there, it actually gets rid of it. So the idea being that you can set up these lists with a bunch of different check items, and you can either, when you get done with whatever item list you're done, You simply click on the checkbox to say it's done, moves it to the bottom. You can delete it by clicking on the X. Or another thing you can do is you can rearrange them by clicking on this um, little symbol on the left side here. Allows you to just grab and drag to rearrange items however you want to rearrange them. And you can put as many items as you want. So the first thing is you can put in a note by just putting in text. The second thing is you can create these lists. When you're done, you just click on done. And so it makes it very simple to have both capabilities. You got the list and you got the notes, which are just text notes. Another thing you can do in Google Keep is you can also create content with pictures, or basically add a photo. I shouldn't say with pictures. You can add an image to any note that you have in Google Keep, but only one image. You cannot add more than one. So it says add image. And if you click here, it'll ask you what image do you want to add. And we're going to, since I was talking about David Amerland before, my buddy from UK, we'll just stick one of his photos in here. And there's David right there, and we can add a note. And David Amerland. Yeah, something like that. And so now we have the a note with all the information right there. And so these are the three different things that I've just done, and you can do all of them by clicking, depending what you click on here. That's how you can initiate it. At any point in time, by the way, if I click on, for example, this particular note here, you try to edit it, notice that I also have ability to insert an image at this point. So if I click on the image button and I select my son Ben here, then you can see it'll add it to that particular card. And so now you can have the existing card also have an image. What you cannot do is you cannot add an image to, oh, I guess you can. Okay, take it back. You can, they have different versions of Google Keep, have different capabilities. So that's why I'm not 100% sure, but it looks like you can. So if I wanted to add an image, let's see, it'll be a good image, this one. To add an image to checklist, we can do that as well. Okay, so basically any card, any note can have image added to it. Okay, and that's it. And it's as simple as that. So this makes it very easy to create content. And of course, like I said, to create categories and subdivide things into multiple meanings. But the easiest way to do is just to color code it. So you have ability to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 colors. You can actually have each color have a different meaning. Of course, you'll have to know yourself what these colors mean. And so, you know, red could mean things that you are planning to do, or green could be things that you already done, and blue things that would be nice to do at some point in the future. I mean, there's different ways how you can code it. You can color code it based on people. You know, all the content you create for the accounting department will have blue color, or, you know, for some other department have yellow color. So you have all these different capabilities and all these different segregations based on your own preferences, and that's one of the easiest way to organize things in Google Keep is by simply using different colors. Okay, and the beauty is, again, all of this stuff you see here is all done on in a very simple but very kind of easy to implement format, where you create these notes, they go and they show up on the screen, and then they wind up being synchronized across all your devices. So when you get done, then your other devices will be able to show the same notes. So you put something on your computer, and then you'll have all this stuff on your phone, and so on and so forth. Okay. So synchronization is definitely a key factor in doing this kind of stuff. One of the things that would be very useful also for this is if you're running it and you have Google Chrome, which I certainly recommend you use, there is a Chrome app for the same Google Keep, and if you install it, like I have it installed here, and I can actually crank it up and run it here as well. The nice thing about the Chrome app is it allows you to run Google Keep offline. Even if you're not on the internet, it'll still run. And that, of course, gives you capabilities to do things like on Chromebook. when you may not potentially be, that's the best case use scenario, is if you happen to be somewhere with your Chromebook and there's just no internet, you can still create notes, put whatever you want in them, work on them, and then when you get done, once you eventually connect to the internet, it'll synchronize and allow you to have everything be totally sync between different devices and everything else. So it's kind of cool to have all these different capabilities. You have the web-based app, meaning the regular app you go to, keep.google.com. That's how you get to your stuff. And then you have the mobile app, so you can download it from the Play Store for your tablet or your phone. And then you also have this Chrome app that you can download from the Chrome marketplace, as they call it. And then you can have ability to do offline editing on these notes as well. So very, very handy, very convenient. Okay, so we talked about the parts of the notes. We have the heading, we have the actual content, which could be checklist or regular text, and you can also have photos on any of these as well. The way that the notes themselves are displayed, so before we get into all the fancy features and stuff, I just want to point out that for the purposes of looking at somebody's office and seeing all these yellow and blue and green sticky pads or sticky notes or post-it notes, whatever you want to call them, this would be a very simple way to just completely eliminate all this and simply have all this information be going directly into exactly the same even color notes if you want. I mean, you can see, you can make them look exactly like the stickies. The difference being is you're not physically limited like you are with paper. I mean, you don't have a limitation like that cork board I showed you. That's the limitation I had. You can only put so many of these cards or these post-it notes on that particular board. So that's one problem. With these things, you have no limit. You can have as many as you want. Second problem with those things is that if you create a bunch of them and put them in all over the place, not just on the cork board, then you have them spread everywhere. You can't find anything anymore, which of course is not the case with these cards. They're always going to be in the same place, always available. Another interesting thing about Google Keep is it works based on individual Google accounts. So in other words, each account that you might have, each Google account will have its own set of Google Keep content. So it also creates opportunities to have completely different content segregated based on your different email accounts. So you may have one account personal, it'll have its Google Keep notes there, and then you can have a professional account or your business account, and then that have a completely different set of Google Keep notes. So it's kind of handy. It's kind of, think of it as if you ever use Evernote, which is also an excellent note-taking program, more involved, more featureful, but also more complex to use. It's similar to them having different notebooks where you can segregate information based on these notebooks. In this particular case, you can do it by different Google accounts, and everything is segregated based on that. And then within each one of these setup for Google Keep, then you can segregate things further by using colors, like I said, and we'll talk about some other stuff how to do it as well. Display itself in default displays like this, or they call it grid display. It's similar to Pinterest in many ways, and I don't know if it's intentional or unintentional, but basically it is looking very similar because you can see they're different height, even though they're the same width, but they're different height, and so you end up having like a barrage of these notes. And what you can do with these things is if you click on a note and then you drag it, you can actually rearrange notes yourself and put them somewhere else. So you can put more important things higher or lower or left or right or whatever you feel like it. So it's kind of handy to be able to rearrange them. Most of the time you won't be doing it though. And then if you look at the very top here, you have a way to switch from the grid mode into what they call list view. And for some reason Google doesn't want to upload these things. Let's see if it does it now. Upload failed. Maybe Google's doing something. But what I wanted to say here is you can see this is just one column view, just a scrollable list. You can't drag this or do anything else with these. The only thing you can do is you can basically just kind of scroll through them and edit things directly on by just simply clicking, and then you can make changes right there or rearrange things wherever you want to do. If you do it in the grid mode, then it's a little different because when you click on a note, doesn't matter which note, it goes, it pulls it up front like this, and then you're able to go in and edit whatever you want, and then you click on done. So either approach is fast enough, easy enough. It's basically up to you, your preference, how you want to display it, but those are two different ways to look at the stuff. Okay. Whenever you get done, as you can see that, you can click on whatever items you want to change as much as you want. When you get done, you click on the done button. Another way you can do it is just simply click off the node somewhere. Doesn't matter where. As long as I click off of it, it will save the content, and your changes will be in place. Keep in mind that there is no save on this thing. If you don't click on done, that does not mean that it's not going to be saved. It automatically saves everything, like everything else in Google is, and so basically that's what it does. In terms of some of the things you cannot do with Google Keep, in this particular instance, the PC version of Google Keep, one thing you cannot do is you cannot share cards. So which is something I think they're going to address, and we're certainly going to address a different way to share these notes, but you cannot do it from this application. There is no share option. Another thing you can't do is you cannot print, which is, in my view, a total plus for Google, because if you right click, you can see there's no print option, and there's no print option on the card itself. And one of the reasons I certainly would recommend that you switch all your post-it notes to these is also to eliminate paper use. And of course, if you want to eliminate paper, then you don't print. So it's fine that you don't have a print option. But I will show you later how you can print them. There's a way to do it if you absolutely have to. And also, in terms of organization of these notes, you can't really organize them real well other than what I mentioned. In other words, you can have multiple accounts, and then each account will have its own set of Google Keep notes. And within the account itself, like here, you can colorize different notes and assign different meanings to different colors. And some people ask me, well, how do you keep track of this thing, and how do you know which color represents what? And I usually tell them the simplest thing to do is just create a note. Create a note and simply indicate, you can say to yourself, you can say keep color chart, or whatever you want to call it, legend, color legend, let's say. And we'll just say that the yellow equals trending to be done. Red is due immediately. Green done. Blue, etc. Let's say it's like this. Blue notes. Let's say notes for management, or whatever. In other words, you assign your own values to them, and then just simply keep this card available here. And to make it more prominent, you can put some kind of a let's see what would be a good picture here. It doesn't really matter. I guess we can use we'll use David's book cover from his famous book called Google Hands for Business. You can just basically do something like this, and I think it doesn't want to upload today. Strange. And that way you can easily see it in the list here. And if you want to change background color, of course, you can change background color. But this way, whenever you're actually working on stuff, you can see this is what this means. It's very easy to tell. And you just keep this card at the top left corner here, so you can see what your colors mean and colorize accordingly. But that's one way to, simple way to kind of keep track of it, and at the same time organize things by color. But you can't really organize anything else in this particular context. One other thing we didn't cover that is important is also one thing you can do with this is you can also archive notes. So if I wanted to take a particular note here, for example, this one, if I want to archive it, I click on this little file cabinet icon, and then this note is going to be gone from the main display. I can go back to my archive notes, which you do by clicking on the left side right here, pulling down this menu and selecting the archive option, and then you'll see all your archive notes here, including the one I just did right there. right? So that's the one I just archived. And of course, when it's archived, you can also have options to delete it or make a copy of it. And archive will stay there permanently. It doesn't go away, it just stays there permanently. And when you do searches, it'll also find things in archive too. So it's kind of, think of it as an easy way to get things out of your face, so to speak. So you only have important stuff here visible to you all the time, but things that are still useful, but not something that needs to be in your face all the time, those things you just put in archive and keep them there. So keeps things also, in terms of organization, keeps it a little bit more organized like that. So when you hover, going back a little bit about functionality here, when you hover over cards, you get these options here, and the options are, the first one is called, remind me. Second one is the colors we talked about. Third one is the archive, and then also you have ability from the pull down menu here. You can have some additional options. One of them is delete, which will delete this particular note. Another one is make a copy. So if, for example, let's say you set up a bunch of notes that are similar, but just a little bit of difference, the easiest way to do is you just make a copy and then you change the new note to whatever you want it to be. And then there's the absolute stunning killer option called grab image text. And we'll try it again later as well, but just to show you what it does is, you can see this is a card here that I just took at lunch from a restaurant I was at, because I wanted to have their information. And if I click on the card, you can see just a picture, not exactly well shot because it's got some glare in there and kind of on the darkish side here and there, and text is sideways, all that kind of stuff. So certainly not at the exactly right angle or anything, but it doesn't matter. You shot a quick picture, there it is, and over here all it says is restaurant. But if I pull down this option called grab image text from the menu, look at the magic. Boom. Now it pulls in everything that that card had in terms of text. It actually is pulling in to the best of its abilities by using optical character recognition on the fly. And as you can see, it's got all the information there. So we got the restaurant's website address, which you can see it automatically changes to be a link. So I can just click on it to go right to it. I've got the hours of operation. I've got address of the place. I got name of the place. I mean, the whole 9 yards, basically. Everything that's on that card that it can figure out, it puts it as text into the card itself, which makes it very handy for many different things. And I click done, and I'm done. I have all this information, and I have the business card. So those are the options that you have from the menu that make it very easy to use, very convenient. And so you can think of it as, if you need to get some information, doesn't matter where you're trying to get it from, but if you need to get some information from some sort of outside source, be the card, be the picture of something, a piece of paper with text on it, anything, you can take a picture with your phone, and then you can use the option of this grab text, image text, to dump the text inside the card, and makes it much easier to read, and makes it easy to search and things like that. Okay. In terms of lists, so if we look at the list, for example, go back to this list here, you can see on the list here that let's add a few more items. Okay. So over here, I can easily, again, clicking on that left drag thing, I can rearrange items any way I want, drag them up, down, whatever I want to do with them. Anytime you click on a checkbox, it goes ahead and puts the item down below and crosses out the list to indicate it's been done, it's checked. And so that's pretty much all you need to know about lists. The only difference, or the only other choice, I should say, no difference that you have with lists is you can click on the more pull-down menu here, and one of the options is called list settings. And what list settings does, it allows you to set up on card, on each individual note level or on the global level, what you want to do with, for example, new items that are added. So they give you a choice to add them at the top of the list or at the bottom of the list. And then also in terms of checked items, you can say you want them to stay in place when you click on the checkbox, or you can click on this move to bottom to automatically move to the bottom of the list like in the case in my case. And then down here you have a checkbox that says apply to new list. So any new list that you create, it'll use these same settings. But you can actually have these settings be different on a node by node basis, which is very convenient, very handy. And then when you make the changes, you click on save, and you're done. So that's you have much nice level of control, much nicer, I should say, level of control than just the usual regular list, because you totally control where these items go. In terms of the actual order where they go, they don't need to be all at the bottom and then you drag them. You don't have to do it this way. I can click here and hit enter, and it's going to let me add another item here. Okay, and then if I hit enter, now I'm adding at this point. Whatever I want to do. So basically, it makes it very easy to stick things anywhere. That combined with the ability to drag things and the ability to easily delete things by clicking on the X here, makes it very quick and very easy to use and very easy to maintain in terms of when you're done. You click a checkbox, you're done. So very, very simple to handle lists and to deal with lists. Okay, the other thing I wanted to mention is on the list thing, what one other option you have is it says here uncheck all items. So you can do that as well. So if you have a bunch of items checked, you can uncheck all of them in one fell swoop. Why would you ever want to do this? The example I can think of would be, let's say you come up with a list of things that you need to buy on a weekly basis, and it's basically the same list. It doesn't really change much. You keep buying the same stuff. So instead of you putting together a list of 25 items and then sitting and unchecking all of them every time, or creating a copy of the list, things like that, all you have to do is just select uncheck all items after you bought everything, because you're checking them as you buy them, and then it's ready to go for next week. So that's a simple example of how this would be handy in that kind of situation. Okay. Another important thing to talk about is, in terms of management of notes, is what happens to them when you delete them. So if I go to this note and I delete it, it actually gets rid of it from the main display, but it's not physically gone. Number one, at the top, as soon as you delete, I have an option to undo, which will bring it right back, like any undo does. But it only lasts, as you can see, for a few seconds there, and if you don't do it, then it's going to be gone. But what they also have is they have a trash can here. So if you go and pull down the notes menu here and select on trash, then you'll see this particular note is right there in trash. Okay, so it's not gone, it's in trash. The only limitation here is it says right there at the top of the screen here, notes in trash are deleted after 7 days. So you can delete them yourself by clicking on this link called empty trash now, just like Gmail does. But the actual notes will be kept just for a week. So keep that in mind. You don't want to be deleting notes that you want to keep for any reason. You want to be archiving those. But if you want to delete notes and just they've be gone, they give you kind of like a little bit of a buffer space where you delete something, oh my God, I didn't mean to delete it. They give you 7 days to do the oh my God thing, and you can still get it back. And then on notes, as you can imagine, there's a pull down menu, and you can either delete forever or you can restore it. So very simple, very straightforward in terms of what it does. So that's what the trash thing does when you delete notes. Okay. Also, I wanted to mention that if you need help with Google Keep in terms of looking at some of the documentation Google has for it, you also click on the pull-down menu on the left, and at the bottom there you'll have an option called Help. So if you click on that, it'll take you to Google's site where they have, thing what's new. They have a bunch of information. Basically, pretty much most of the stuff I'm telling you, you can find it here, and that's how you go for help. They also have feedback if something is haywire and you want to let them know. And they also have the terms of service, which is a mandatory read for some of us, I guess. I have not read it yet. Okay. So let's talk about reminders, which is a huge deal if it's used correctly. So an example here, if I wanted to be reminded of anything on any of the cards, all I have to do is click on the reminder button, or icon, I should say, in the bottom left corner there. It says remind me. And I have a choice of 2 different ways to do reminders. This is very similar to how they do it in Google now. I can either have a reminder based on date and time, and notice that, for date, they give me a calendar. If I click on it, I can select any date I want, or just type it in. And for time, you can select like morning, afternoon, evening. So I'm going to make it a little bit easier. Or at the very bottom, they have the pick a time, and so you can totally specify exactly what time you want to be reminded of. So let's say I want to be reminded at 50. We'll do 54. So it doesn't p.m. It's at 2:54 p.m. and I'm going to say today is the 8th, so I'm going to be on the 8th, and I'm going to say remind me. So now what happens is at the bottom here, it shows me now on the card that this is a reminder at 2:54 p.m. October. So I go back and I go do my work stuff, do whatever I'm going to do, and then what's going to happen is when 2:54 hits on the specified date, which is today, doesn't matter where I'm sitting, my desktop will actually notify me. Um, right there, you'll see it come up on the screen here, and also my phone will also notify me. So a bunch of different things you get notifications, reminders from, they indicating that this particular something needs to be done with that particular node, and then you can just click on it to go right to that node, do whatever you want to do with it. So it's an excellent way to get reminded of anything. And now Google Now just added integration where you can also, not only are you able to get your reminders on the screen here or on Google Keep itself, but you can also get them in Google Now. Over here down at the bottom here, bottom right, you see it came up and it says Dim Sum Factory. So it's my card from the restaurant, came up with this reminder right there. And today 2:54 p.m. So if I click on it, it'll take me right to that card. So very, very handy way to get reminded of anything on a particular day and time. So that's one option. Second option, you can only, by the way, have one reminder. You cannot have multiple. So I'm going to go ahead and you can either edit it or you can delete it by clicking on one of these buttons. I'm going to delete this one, and I'm going to go ahead and create a new one. Now, the other one right here, as you can see, it says reminder date and time. The other choice is location. And that really is really meant for mobile devices because it's working based on your device's GPS. And of course, in terms of computer, you're pretty much sitting in the same position, so it wouldn't make much sense to do location-based reminder. But on a mobile device, it makes all the sense in the world. And so, for example, over here, I can indicate location that I want. Let's say West High School in Kirkland as an example. And what's going to happen is this card will come up next time I'm at that particular location. So it's the first one was based on date and time. This one is based on location in terms of your device's GPS. So on GPS, if your GPS is on and you happen to be at the location, in this particular case at this, it's called Emerson High School or Best High School, if I get to that location and my GPS finds out that I'm there, then this reminder will come up and tell me. And so the combination of these two is phenomenal because you can do date-based, time-based, as well as location-based, GPS-based notification, which is just phenomenal in terms of features. If you think about it, on the surface, it sounds like it's not that big of a deal, but it really is an extremely, extremely convenient way to be notified, be reminded of things to do. And you can think of this thing as now becoming more, it's not just a way to take notes, it's a way to almost make this thing be your secretary, because you can have it very quickly to do something, and then it's going to go ahead and come back to you and remind you to do whatever you wanted to remind you of at that point in time. And recently, actually, a gentleman by the name of Phil Libin, who is the guy who started Evernote, he made this big, like just last week, basically indicating that he wants to transform how businesses do business actually on a daily basis in terms of their employees and stuff. And he wants to get rid of email potentially completely if possible by using the approach of using the Evernote, being able to collaborate on things. They also have these both location-based and date-based reminders in place. So he's trying to make a point that you can put whatever information you need into that kind of environment and note-taking environment, and with using those additional tools to collaboration and sharing and reminders, you can actually run the communication part of the business without dealing with emails. And I'm not wouldn't say that I'm 100% on board with just completely closing my Gmail account to do it, but there is definitely some good sense in terms of looking at this for some businesses and some of the things they do as a much more productive way to get things done, and also a way where you don't need to be dropping the ball or your employees forget something that they were asked to do and they wrote it down on some silly piece of paper that winds up being lost who knows where, and they cannot rely on their brain to remember all the dozens of tasks that were given to them. And with this kind of tool here, it's a very simple way to just you get a task, you just drop it into a list or drop it into a note, you put yourself a reminder, you're done. I mean, the perfect example would be, like I was thinking, how would you use something like this? Example would be, let's say that you need to buy ink for a printer, as an example. Well, so you drop a note saying you need ink, number 250 from Canon, for example, and that's all the note should say. And then you put in a reminder saying, location-based reminder saying to remind you next time you're at Costco. And so it's one of these situations where maybe ink is not a perfect example because usually you buy ink when you need ink, and if you need ink, you need ink. You're not going to be waiting until you make it to Costco. But the idea being, if you have a bunch of different items that you need to buy, and let's say you're making this weekly trip to Costco, you can actually easily set up an environment in Google Keep where you um, take pictures, for example, of items that you need to purchase, and then maybe pictures you see on the street, pictures you have in the office, doesn't matter where. And then for each one of these things, since you need to buy them, you simply put in a reminder to say, at Costco, whatever location of Costco, you want to be reminded of this particular item you need to get. So eventually you wind up getting to Costco to make all your purchases. All of a sudden you have this barrage of reminders coming in, I don't know, 10 items, 15 items, however many you put in, saying that those are reminders for all these things that you need to purchase at Costco. So then you just simply go down the list, and then you buy item, in the first reminder there, you look at the note for that. It can have as much or as little information as needed. It could just say ink 250, could have a picture, however you want to set it up. But the bottom line being, you were reminded of that particular item, you go get that item in your shopping cart, and then you archive the cart as soon as you put it in there. Eventually, you're going to go down the whole list of all your reminders, and you got all your shopping done, you're done. I mean, as simple as that. So instead of sitting and racking your brain trying to come up with, oh my God, what I'm going to Costco. What did they say I was going to buy? What did you ask me to buy? You can just keep populating the shopping list at different points in time, whenever it's convenient, whenever it's proper, and you're adding items to this particular shopping list. And when it's time, by using the location-based reminders, when you get to Costco, they're all going to come up, tell you exactly what you need to purchase. So it's a little bit of a shift in thinking of how you get things done on a daily basis. But if you really understand the simplicity of it, and you can easily see the value of it. I mean, because it's definitely a very valuable thing. It's almost like having your own secretary, basically. It's no other way to put it. So very, very handy. Reminders are great. I'm beginning to use them more and more. They do show up in Google Now as well. So all this stuff makes it even more compelling to start using and get more efficient, more productive, easier life. I mean, all these things kind of come into play using these kind of tools and capabilities. Speaking of being productive, as with most things Google, Google Keep also allows you to have keyboard shortcuts. And you can use the letters J and K to navigate between notes. So if I'm sitting on a note here and I hit I'm sorry, let's see, J. As you can see, it keeps jumping notes when I hit J. If I hit K, it's jumping back one note at a time. So, I don't know how much time savings that would give you, but you can't jump using keyboard for people who like keyboards. Letters N and P, next previous, basically navigate and checklist items, so you can move around checklists using N and P keys. C, just like an email, in here it'll create a new note. So all I have to do is hit letter C and jumps in, and there's your new note. And slash goes into the search mode. So you can also hit letter E to archive any note, and or current note, I should say, or a list. And then you can use the pound sign, which is Shift 3, to delete note or checklist. So you can use that. The only toggle between the grid mode and the list mode. Okay, and then we've got, let's see, we've got this up. One of the things that's very useful is when you're entering like check boxes here. If you hit enter, it actually thinks you're adding a new item. So you can put in, item, you hit enter, it goes to the new item. But if you want to put multiple lines in there, what you do is you hit Shift Enter. So you hit Shift Enter, it stays on the same, except for the Shift Enter. For some reason they didn't put it here, but it definitely works. But all the other keyboard shortcuts, you can just hit the question mark on the keyboard, and it'll come up with a list if you need to know it. And of course, if it makes it easier for you, by all means, create a note and put all these keyboard shortcuts in there and have it available to you if you need it. So that's what you can use it that way as well. But it's easy enough to hit the question mark. So speaking of search, search is pretty standard, usual Google deal. For example, let's say you go in here, you hit this search and put in, get all the cards that match. In this case, 2 cards. And I put in something like this, it'll come up immediately with all, so you can see as many cards as we hit both archive. Down at the bottom here, you can see it's got archive cards that match the criteria. Okay, as well as regular cards, and it shows me how many cards it actually matched. So very handy. Where Keep does magic like Google Drive, for those that don't know, is what you can do is you can also do, I'm going to save it so you can see it's got nothing on that card. You click on it, there's nothing there. Notice that over here it says Internet Consulting, right? Which, as you can see, it's a graphic file. Also, you can see that numbers like 8032 are kind of in the shade. I mean, when I took the picture, I didn't do a very good job. So there's all these inadequacies with this particular picture. It's not exactly in beautiful focus, even though it's totally readable. But the bottom line is, it's just took a picture quickly. Not the best photo I've taken in my life. Watch this. Then this card comes up, which makes sense. I mean, there is the text, all of that. Okay. Now let's do my favorite experiment. I'm going to show people, and they usually go, "Wow, consulting," and guess what? It still comes up, even though I don't have any text. All I have is, and yet it still finds it. And the reason for that is because it automatically does OCR on the fly. Doesn't matter if you actually have text or not. Any text it can read in the card, it'll find, and that's basically. So, for example, if I type in, as you can see, this card right now has nothing in terms of text, but it does say here dim sum factory, right? So if we close this card and we go, notice that it automatically makes things like website be clickable link, and boom, right from there I go to. So the idea here, I mean, this particular good restaurant, by the way, if you're in Seattle, right? This is in Bellevue, actually, in Victoria. The idea is here. So you go to a restaurant, and let's say you like it, okay? In the past, you would either ask people for their business card, or you would try to get the information some other way, or get their website. I mean, it's a hassle no matter how you slice it. Even though we're all digital and everything else, it's still a hassle. This way, I simply came in. There was their. I simply took a picture with my phone. Didn't do anything else, but I took a picture using Keep. Okay, so it actually created a card with a picture in it that you saw. One is you can just go ahead, drop the address in there, and it'll come up with the deal. So simple enough. In some cases, it's actually smart enough to figure out that it's an address, in which case, at that point, it'll give you the actual link to the there we go, actual link to the you get all the other information. You can call them. There's their phone number. There's their fax number, hours when they're open, blah, blah, blah. Everything you need to have pretty much to get the contact with these people, it's right there. So extremely handy and works really well. Of course, you can edit it. Look over here, it says 11 to midnight, and maybe you want to segregate the lines a little bit so it looks like this. So it's a little bit easier to read, you know. So, I mean, you can edit it any way you want. Itself is similar, but different. You have additional capabilities, and some things work different. One of the biggest things that's different about the mobile version is that you can also add sound. So I'm gonna stop this presentation here and go back to my phone, and I'm gonna go ahead and jump to show you the interface here. For those who don't have access to it, hopefully you will see it. And as you can see at the top there, see if I can focus a little bit better. There we go. As you can see, you have, the text notes is the left icon. You have the checklist is the second from the left. The third one is a little microphone. This is how you can do voice notes. And then the fourth one is the camera for taking pictures. So everything is the same that we've seen before, with the exception of the voice feature with the little microphone. So what happens basically is I click on the microphone. I can go ahead and record a note. And it goes ahead and actually creates a transcript of what I said. Unfortunately, because of my English accent, as you can see, it says I can go ahead and record in note instead of a note. But for the most part, it does a decent job, but not perfect by any stretch. I mean, it screws up a lot of times too. But notice that there's a little player button down below, and that player button is specifically for playing the stuff back. So if I click, okay. I can go ahead and record. So right there, I can still have my audio sound, and I also have ability to. You can see at the bottom there is a reminder icon, so I can add a reminder to that particular note. I can add a title, and also you can see at the top I can add a photo. I can change colors. I can archive it. I can do pretty much all the things I showed you before, in addition to being able to do the voice stuff. So the voice stuff is very handy because you can, let's say you're a salesperson, or you have some salespeople. They go out, they talk to people, and they need to record the status of what's going on and then relay it to you. Well, it's one of the easiest way to do it. Instead of having a bunch of different applications to use, you just use Keep. They record whatever they want to record as the voice snippet. They add additional text if they need to. They can take a picture of the place or picture of the person. And basically, after that, one of the biggest things we're going to talk about, where mobile absolutely is phenomenal in Keep, is when you pull down the menu on the mobile thing, in the top right corner there. Let's see if we can get in focus for you. You can see the top option says delete. It's kind of doesn't want to focus. I need a new phone. Not because of this though. It's got delete option. It's got make a copy below it, but then it also has the option that is phenomenal on this version, on the mobile version, is share. Come on, show it to me. There we go. Is share. Okay, and then they got the deal that allows you to switch to show checkboxes, meaning it'll become a list instead. And so this is the killer part of the mobile version, is you're able to share these notes, something you cannot do from a desktop version. And so now I can actually go to this particular note, and I can say share. And when I say share, I have an option to share through all these different. I can add it to Dropbox. I can add it to Evernote. I can send it to Google Drive. I can send it via Gmail. I can actually share it back to Keep, which is kind of useless, but they give you an option anyway. And you can also do the sharing permanently or just one time. If you want to be able to do things at different times, then I would recommend you use the one-time option to have flexibility for next time you'll share somewhere else. But if you share the same way to the same application, then you can just say, always do it, and it won't even ask you, it'll automatically share to it. The natural choice, most common choice, of course, is Google Plus. The only problem is with Google Plus sharing is it doesn't do voice sharing, because Google Plus doesn't have in its post voice capability, so you'd lose it. The sharing thing is both a phenomenal feature, which I do think it's a phenomenal feature, but it also can be a detriment as well because of some of these limitations, how things work and don't work. Like I said, as you can see, I cannot share this particular note with Google Plus, but if I take this restaurant note, for example, and if I go ahead and click on share on this thing, then you will see that Google Plus is an option right there. And you can also share it to Facebook. I don't use Facebook, but if you do, you can. And you can also share it to Hangouts. So there's some more options. You can share it to Photos, to Picasa, send it to Kindle. Keep in mind that sharing on this thing is not like sharing on, for example, Google Drive. When you share things in Google Drive, you have ability of multiple people collaborating potentially on the same document or the same spreadsheet, things like that. Okay. In this case here, when you say you want to share, you're simply making a copy of the content and you're sending it to that application. Okay, that's what the sharing in this particular instance means. So it's not the same thing as sharing Google Drive in terms of functionality, but you accomplish a similar result in terms of you're letting somebody else via some other application have access to the same information. And that's where it becomes super powerful in terms of, and useful in terms of what you can do with it, because as great as Google Keep is on a desktop, it's really limited because you can't really take it anywhere else. This way, I can actually go ahead and take my restaurant deal here, and I can go ahead and say I want to share it. So I'm going to go ahead and say I want to share it. Then I'm going to say I'm going to share it through Google Plus, and I'm going to share it using whatever Google Plus personality or identity I want to share it via. And in my particular case, I have my business account. I have a couple of other Google accounts, as you can see right there. But I'm going to use my main one, so the top one. And then it comes up with the regular Google Plus share window, which has the image there, just like the note did, and it has all the text information there. And this is what I was saying about doing the grab image text. For these kind of purposes, that's where it makes sense, even though you don't need it for search, because search will find it anyway. But for doing sharing like Google Plus, that's where you'd want to have all this text information too, so they can find it. And then so you can edit it if you want, but I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to say share, and I'm going to indicate that I want it to go to, well, in this case, we'll just go to public so everybody can see it. But I could actually go to whatever circles, whoever wanted to do the usual Google Plus share. So I'm going to go ahead, it's saying it's sharing it, and basically it's done as soon as the little box disappears. And now if I go back to Google Plus here and pull up my stream, see if we can pull up the stream here. You can see that there it is. I mean, there is the card. It still has not uploaded. There might be something with the, I don't know, maybe it's my computer, but it's showing this, doesn't show the image. For some reason, it's having a hard time uploading today, and I'm not sure it's on my end or on their end. But if I didn't have this problem, then you would see the actual image here, and you can see all the text here, and you can see the website URL as a link, and you can see the phone number I can call from Google Voice directly from the card without doing anything. I haven't edited the thing at all. And it tells you to share from Google Keep. So you can get all this information. It even tries to get, like in this case, it's got Bellevue hashtag in there. It tries to do the usual hashtags. But the bottom line is you can share like this information to share information to Google Plus, and then disseminate it however you want to do it. Something you could not do with the regular version of Google Keep, but you can't do it with the online version. I'm sorry, the mobile version of Google Keep. Okay, very slick. And somebody's calling me. Let me. They're coming to get me. And I'm not. My uncle is calling me. Let's shut down the uncle. We don't use Skype. I apologize. Try this again. So I was going to show you on my screen. I was talking. I didn't realize I wasn't showing anything. So on the screen here, you can see right there, there's the card in my stream. And like I said, it just has a placeholder for a picture right now because something is off with uploading today, right now anyway. But normally you would have the picture there and you would have the information right there. And you have, you know, clickable phone number and clickable URL. And it says that share from Google Keep. So I just wanted you to see that. So that's your basic sharing from Google Keep, the mobile version. Okay, very handy. Try it out. You'll see how cool it is. It's actually extremely cool to do that kind of stuff. Next, let's see what we got here. So as I go down this list here, let's see, we talked about this, So I'll just show you real quick. I'm going through the list here. And as I talk about a particular item, I go ahead and click on the checkbox. And then the thing just goes to the bottom of the list. I guess I'm not showing it to you here. So I'm just going to go ahead and get rid of all of these. And okay, so on the mobile, the grab image text becomes more useful and more needed because when you share it to like Google Plus for people to be able to find it, it needs to be as text. So that's where you want to use the grab image text so you can have text in place. So when people search on Plus, they will be able to find it. And same thing with the email. If you want to send it via Gmail, then of course you want to have the text in there so people can easily get it. Otherwise, they'll just put a picture and nothing else and stuff. So on mobile, one of the things that they did on mobile is they have ability to swipe. And if you swipe left or right on the card, it actually archives it. So it makes it pretty easy to archive on mobile using your fingers. If you long press on the mobile, then it enters selection mode, allowing you to select multiple items as you need them, and then you can actually either delete all these notes at the same time, or you can archive all of them at the same time, or you can send a reminder for all the selected ones at the same time. So it's kind of a very easy way to be able to do operations on multiple nodes by using the long press. Okay. So when you share using, as I mentioned earlier, when you share using Google Drive, it doesn't quite work sometimes the way you expect it to. And what happens if you have a node that has sound, it'll actually put a sound file onto the drive. The only problem is that the file is in what they call 3GP format, and the phone knows how to play it back, but the computer does not. So you end up having a thing that tells you that the video cannot be played. To be able to download this video, you'll need to you can download this video and you need to find an appropriate program to be able to play it. Of course, it's not a video, it's just a sound. So, they have a few little bugs in Keep that they still need to work out on that. And then when you download it, then the Windows Media Player cannot play 3GP files, so you need to get a special 3GP player, which you can find online, and that's not that big of a deal. But it's a little bit clunky in terms of that. And so on Google Drive, you end up with two files. One has information from the node, like a picture, for example, if you had, and the other one has the file, the audio file. And it's just weird the way it works. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend that you do this to Drive. The best thing, what I recommend that works really well with Drive, is being able to take regular text notes and then just share those to Drive. It'll create like a file that then you can edit, open like in Google Docs as a Google Doc, and you can edit it. You can do whatever you want with it. If you're gonna send a post, I mean, a note that has checklist in it, checkbox items, then what happens is in that document you're gonna have like a little square brackets, basically, is what it looks like, and they're just editable like any text, and it creates essentially like a text file. So that kind of information seems to work okay when you send it to Google Drive. But most of the time, the biggest thing that I think would be the most useful and the one I'd recommend is using Google Plus for sharing, because we talked about doing the we talked about being able to organize things, and so this is what I want to talk about shortly here. Is I'm sorry, just looking at my list here. So if you want to organize, then there is a much better way to organize Google Keep Notes using Google Drive. I'm sorry, using Google Plus, and I'll show you in a minute how that works. Yesterday there was a post from Dave Besbris, the guy who is running Google Plus right now, took after Vigundottra, and he said that the biggest thing that kind of exploded recently, or fairly recently, was the communities. And that's what we're going to talk about. Before we get into that, I wanted to mention that when you do share, you have a nice option. So no matter how whichever note you share from Google Keep, no matter from which account, when you share it on mobile, it'll first ask you what identity you want to use on Google Plus to share it as. And then, of course, you share it to a particular people in terms of their name or circle, that kind of deal. So it's a very handy way to easily share from any of your existing identities in Google Plus using the same Google Keep setup. Very handy, very convenient. So let's talk about, again, kind of recap a little bit about organization as we wrap up this thing here. So the first thing is we've got the ability to, let's see, let's go back to this thing here. And so as you can see now, the uploading is back in check. Google must have had some problem. So I see it uploaded the picture in there. So there is my Google Plus post that has all the information, including the picture of the restaurant there. Works really slick. So if we go back to Keep here, one thing I forgot to mention that I want to mention, that the reminders do work very well, but you have to have Google Keep up and running on your computer somewhere to be able to have the reminder. In other words, your phone automatically will show notification regardless of if you're in Keep or if you're not. But on your computer, the Google Keep needs to be either in its own app running, or you need to have it in one of the tabs like I do for the reminders to work. So keep that in mind. Okay. And as you can see here, let's see, David, this is upload failed. Let's see if it uploads now. Yep. See, so it kind of goes, when it can't upload it immediately, it goes into this little grayish mode, and then the full picture comes on. Great, because I don't want to get David irritated that his picture wasn't uploaded. So let's go back to talk about organization. So organizing things, again, just to recap, we used colors, so you can change, the color of the background, be whatever you need it to be. So that's one way to organize things. You can obviously use certain keywords, and so based on that, then you're able to search, and if you look for something like that, it'll come up. So that's pretty straightforward. You can use text, and you can also share on Google Plus. And the cool thing about that is you can actually share it into not only individual profiles and stuff or circles, you can also share it to communities, just like you can do any Google Plus post. And that's where it becomes extremely capable and useful, because in my case, for example, let's say you get, to give you a real life example, let's say you have some kind of bill, right? Some kind of a invoice or receipt or anything like that. And so what you can do, like in my case, I set up a personal community, private community called Personal Stuff, to make it simple. And yesterday, I bought this ink. So I just put a few pieces of text. I shot the picture using Keep. So it automatically got in there. And then I shared it to this particular community, and I have different categories here. Like I have business cards, I have receipts, and so on and so forth. And so I simply take a picture, and then I go ahead and share it like this to this particular community, to the category called receipts. So now when I happen to have more receipts, I just simply take a picture of them and they wind up being shared to the same community. And this makes it really simple for me to get everything I need into nicely organized environment, because I can have as many categories as I want. I can have as many communities as I want. So I want you to kind of step back a little bit here and give some thought to the concept of, instead of in Evernote being notebooks, think of yourself as setting up multiple private communities instead. Think of them as notebooks. And then within each community, you can have any number of categories, similar to how Evernote does tags, for example. But in this case, they call them categories, same concept though. And then you can easily, well, similar, not exactly the same, but similar. You can easily then subdivide the information, these different nodes. So the idea being this: you go anywhere and somebody gives you a receipt that you need to submit for reimbursement. You simply snap a picture using Keep on your phone, you share it to that particular community, and you're done. If you want to grab image text, you can do that if it's needed. If not, if what you're trying to supply is a backup, that's it. And then what you can do is, on this end, you can actually then easily have all these receipts available by just clicking on the category. So if I click on 2014 receipts, I only have one. But the bottom line being is, it's going to show me just this one particular deal for receipts for 2014. So all my receipts at the end of the year when I need to do taxes, there are all my receipts right there. So for people who are a lot on the go and all they need to do is just have backups for this stuff, it's a beautiful way to do it. I mean, just a very, very simple way to do it. Another application I was thinking for my client in Idaho, which is a resort company, is the lost and found. So let's say people go and they leave some things in rooms. So again, I just basically told them they can take a picture using Google Keep application, perhaps enter which particular residence or home people were in, where they took the picture at, and then any other information they want to put in text-wise, they can. They don't certainly have to. They can just have the picture. Then they share it to a community called Lost and Found, and then they can have category called clothes, category called skis, category called bikes, whatever the categories they want to segregate into, and they're done. And then that same community is shared with the owners of that particular resort. People come to the resort, and then they can see, and at any point in time, people can call up and say, yeah, it's this item, that you mentioned on this particular date. That's, I left it there, my sunglasses. And so then they arrange to get them back, and they just simply delete the post. As simple as that, and you can create a very, very dynamic and very easy to use environment where you can have all lost and found stuff be easily assembled, categorized, and then dispersed to or relate to the appropriate audience for consumption, basically. It's very, very simple. So think of this is a simple example, but there's the receipts, the reimbursements, the business cards, another one. Here's an example of business cards. You simply take a picture of a card, like I showed you a picture of my my business card I took yesterday, and so I simply shot a picture of the card, and there it is. There's the card, there's all the information, and I did the grab image text to stick it in there, and you have a picture of the thing, you have all the information, there you go. And so you can have all the different business cards. I have another, this is one of the vendors I dealt with. So I use the word vendor. So later on I can actually search for vendor here and it'll show me all my vendors. But you don't have to. You can put in as much or little information as you want. And then of course the rest of the information you just do using grab image text, as I showed you earlier. And it's about as slick as you can get, in my view, that you can do that kind of stuff. And you can easily group things together like this and categorize them and then use them appropriately. So very handy. Another cool thing to remember is, like I said, you can share this stuff from Google Keep to Google Plus, which means that now you can have certain people be able to access this information, or you share it directly with them by using the standard approach. So if you've got a bunch of these notes that you cannot give to anybody, using the mobile deal, you can now, and using especially in combination with Google Plus. And then what I recommend you do, you take a picture, you put whatever information, you share it, and then as soon as you share it, you immediately archive it. So it's not sitting. So you have all these notes that are archived, And then later on, if you decide to delete them, you can delete them anytime you wish. Not a big deal. But a copy of them winds up being on Google Plus, and then you have it in two places. So it's kind of like a backup as well. So think about that. Okay, so very handy when you share to. So Google Plus is definitely what I recommend. You share most of the stuff, and then you archive it and keep the main display clean. Also, if you share it to Drive, you can indicate which folder you want the information to go to. It'll stick it in that folder. So very handy from that standpoint. Lost and found, I showed you an example of that. One other thing I wanted to mention before we wrap up here is sharing to Hangouts. And so, for example, if you wanted to show some information to somebody, and let's say it's a visual information, and there's some or some additional information you wanted to put in, instead of just chatting and typing all the stuff, let's say you're somewhere in a place where it's not easy to do, you can simply, or you wanted to give information about a particular business, snap the business card or snap whatever picture you want of that particular place, and then you can do the same share via Keep, but you share it from Keep to Hangouts, and then that person immediately gets the notification that the Hangout window pops up. It shows the picture there. It shows whatever text you shared, and of course, then you can continue the conversation with the person. But if you're trying to do something quickly, that may be the fastest way to do it. I was thinking, like one of my clients is, for example, a real estate company. So if you're driving by some house and you want to send the information back to the office, or somebody's doing, wants to do a I don't know, auction on the house is going on, you want to take a photo and quickly get back to somebody in the office to do a conversation, that's the easiest and quickest way, I think, to be able to do something like that using Google Keep. So there's myriad. I mean, I'm just giving you a few little examples. There's a zillion examples of how you can take the content, which either text or images or combination of both, potentially with voice, and then you can share it. Of course, you won't be able to share voice with Google Plus, but the other information you care if you don't use voice. And then you can easily categorize it, organize it, colorize it, and then utilize it accordingly. So really slick. Okay, so we talked about that. We talked about receipts. We talked about shopping lists where you can set up the reminder and so on and so forth, which is pretty slick to be able to do that. And we talked about the Hangout chats. Great. And of course, at that point, because we're now with ever increasing capable phones and things like that, where you can actually do a video hangout, not just regular hangout, chat hangout. So you can actually share with somebody a photo from Keep like this, and then you immediately launch into the video hangout if you need to continue in the video mode. So you can do that as well. And you can do that in an office environment, you can do it outside, wherever you want to do it. The reason, the question somebody might ask, okay, I can take a picture right from the Hangout app or using camera app, and then I can simply dump that picture into, you can take a picture from the Hangout app. And so why wouldn't you do that? Why do you need to go through Keep? The reason is if you want to do this business with grabbing the text from whatever you're shooting, whatever it might be, piece of paper, business card, whatever, you can't do that using regular picture taking. But Keep has this capability, so that's why you'd want to do it through Keep. One thing I also wanted to mention that you can also share things to Keep from other apps. So, for example, you can go to a website, and let's see, let's go to website. Let's go to I don't know, fox.com/under the dome. It's not Fox. It's CBS, right? It's taking Revolution. Yeah. So let's see. It's Revolution season 3. Petition site. That's funny. Okay. So let's say we pick up a website, and then once the site is up, then you can actually share it. Of course, I'm showing it to you on this screen, but I'm going to go ahead and let's jump out this way, and let's go to browser and go to type in No, let's just go to CNN.com instead. So I'm going to CNN.com, and as you can see, it pops up with the deal there. So now if I take this and I do a share, and I share that, whatever it happens to be, to keep, as you can see down at the bottom there, there's one of the options is keep, the yellow little guy. Then what happens is it comes up and says, what do you want to do with this? I can, end the title, but I'm not going to do anything. I just want to show you what happens if I just simply click here. What winds up happening is I wind up getting a post that looks like a little picture, whatever photos they had on that page, kind of like a miniature version of that, and it's got the link to send to that particular page. That's basically the individual note. It looks like this. Okay, and then if I go back to my Google Keep here, and sometimes it takes a few seconds to sync up, but there you go, right there. So right there, I have the note here called CNN.com, and there's a link to the deal, and it's still uploading the image. That's why I don't see it, but essentially I will yeah, it's still uploading the image. So anyway, it will change to have this little picture, same picture I have here on my display there, and then I'll be able to use the URL to go to it. So what can you use that for? You can use it to create a small version of any website, kind of like bookmark. Think of it as bookmarks, and then you can just simply use that to have like a bunch of bookmarks that you're using for navigating different sites right there in Google Keep. So there's the if I go back to display mode here, right there, go back to my Google Keep for you, you will see that there it is. It's got a little image there. You can see the picture from the side, and it's got the link, and so that's basically the note. And of course, if I wanted to edit it, I could edit it. But as you can see, sharing to Google Keep is also possible from other apps. And let me jump back here to. You can also do the same thing with maps, for example. If you go to a map and you find it on your mobile device, then you can do a share map to Google Keep. It'll have the link to the map, and you're able to then store a bunch of maps that way too. So there's a number of applications, not all of them, but a number of them that would make sense to, and of course text messages too. I can take any text message that I have on my phone and easily turn it into a Keep note, and then of course I can edit it, and I can also then share it wherever I want it to go. So if you think about it, how do I get my certain, for example, text messages I get? How do I save them somewhere on Google Plus? I guess, let me see here. Well, if they have an option to go directly to Google Plus, then you can do it that way. But if you wanted to go through the system with having some of the capabilities that Google Keep gives you, then you can easily go by sharing it to Google Keep first. So you have to look at it and see for your specific situation to see if it's useful and makes sense. Let's talk a little bit about caveats here in terms of issues I found. Sharing photos sometimes doesn't work immediately, like we saw an example, and shows a placeholder, and then eventually a photo comes up. So just be mindful that it will come up. Sound can be shared to Drive, but it won't be playable because of this 3GP format. So you can download it, and you can have some kind of player, but not the media player, and then you can play it. I don't know, and also you cannot share sound-based notes to Hangouts app. You also don't have any sharing capabilities from the desktops. You cannot print unless you share it to some app that can. So in this particular case, we can always, if you have a cloud printer set up, so from your mobile device you can print to printers, then yeah, you can basically share the Keep note with any application that has print capability, and then you just print it. So that's pretty simple to do that. That's how you get around inability to print directly from Google Keep from the desktop. The other problem is sharing to Drive with multimedia note creates multiple file uploads, one for sound, one for image, but not for text. So text note, if you have any text on that kind of note, it will not be visible anywhere on the drive. So keep that in mind. But you can share just a regular text note. In that case, it will become like a document that you can edit. And if it's a list, like I said, it'll have 2 square brackets. Uh, Search OCR fails at times. Sometimes it's perfect, sometimes it's not perfect. Most of the time, it's very good, though. It all depends on the quality of graphics and what kind of fonts there are and things like that. But mostly, it does an excellent job scanning, even with somewhat funky fonts. Handwriting might be a little bit more challenging. Um, Sometimes working offline and online can create a conflict between changes. So let's say you're working on the same note online while one of your colleagues has a Chromebook or something and works offline, and you're editing the same node, then it doesn't know which one is the latest. So they give you an option to fix the conflict. They will tell you about it when you try to synchronize. And you could then have a choice of either picking the one you want to keep or picking to keep both of them. So, they basically let you create resolution pretty easily yourself. Reminders on the desktop don't show up unless Keep is up and running. So it's kind of limitation, but just as long as you're aware, not that big of a deal. And if you're running the Chrome app, then or have it in a tab, it works fine. So just keep it always running. Widgets is something that I'd recommend you use on the mobile devices. Definitely recommend that. And I'll show you as the last thing how to use a widget. But it doesn't work on Android 4.0 very well or below Android 4.0, which is ice cream sandwich. Sharing to communities right now automatically selects the first category. It kind of comes up with a quick blimp on the screen saying which category, but it doesn't let you choose it. So clearly a bug. I'm sure they'll fix it soon. In the meantime, you will need to move some of the nodes from whatever the first category is, if you have multiple categories, to the proper category if it puts it in the wrong category. But I'm sure they'll fix that. So for now, just remember you'll stick it in the first category when you share it with the community. And then last thing here on my list is, let's see. The last thing on my list here is I need to be going to my meeting here. Last thing on my list is they do have support for Android Wear, and you're able to create new notes via voice, view existing notes, check lists, view reminders, and snooze notifications if need be. So it's kind of cool in terms of support for Google Wear. And with that, I'll just quickly show you the widget situation, and I think we'll be done. I think we pretty much covered pretty much everything I wanted to cover. It is an awesome app, absolutely awesome. And on both desktop and together with a mobile, you can do a lot of really cool things if you just kind of stop and think about what it can do and what the possibilities are in your environment. I'm sure you'll find many, many uses. So the widget looks like this. Let me see here. I think will not focus. There we go. So the widget looks like this, and you can see it's got on the left side, it's got note. On the next to it, it's got checklist, and it's got the microphone, and it's got the phone. And so, like an example here, I'm just going to click on the camera icon, for example, just to give you a real life example. Click on the camera icon, it comes up and says, what do you want me to scan? So then I'm going to go ahead and take this business card here, real estate card, and drop it down here. And I'm just going to, on my table, take a picture. Nothing fancy. And I'm given the choice to retake it if it's pretty bad. This one kind of came out bad. So there's the card right there. As you can see, it's readable. Full screen, I'm going to say it's okay. And I'm going to go ahead and say the word test for that part, and then I'm going to say testing keep. And so, the just put in that I can have a reminder if I want to, I don't want to. And then at that point in time, all I have to do is simply, I can actually go ahead and share it, which I'm going to do right now, to Hangouts. Well, let's share it to Google Plus. So I'm sharing it to Google Plus, and I'm going to share it as me, and then I'm going to put in, instead of the public thing here, I'm going to put in personal stuff, which is my community, my private community. Okay. So there's, the picture of the community right there. So I'm going to select that, and then it goes ahead and just jump in there, and I'm going to say, go ahead and click on share. And it's doing the sending. And so then if I go back to show you the display here, I'm going to jump back to my community here. Where's my community? Right there. And then I'm going to go to receipts, which is the first community I had. Unfortunately, like I said, they put it in there. There is the card right there. As you can see, it's right there. And the card is there. And because I didn't do grab image text, it didn't share the rest of the info. So if I put in grab image text in there and then say share again, just to show you the difference. Then what's going to happen is you'll see the rest of the information in that Google Plus post. There we go. There we go. So from the widget, once the widget actually takes a picture and you do share, then you're done. And then I can go ahead and archive it. And then over here, I didn't archive it, but I could. Over here, within a few seconds here, you'll notice that I have this other deal right here, which actually has all the rest of the information from image grab text. That's it. So, and of course, I can delete any of these things. The usual things I can do in Google Plus, I can do later on in this. So basically, that's a quick overview for you of what Google Keep is and what you can do with it. Just give you a glimpse of possibilities. You can really get creative with this thing. You can do a lot of things, as we were discussing. And so I'd certainly recommend you take a good look at it and think about some of the things we talked about and see how potentially you can use it for your own business to not only have an easier way to keep track of things, but also be reminded of things, also sharing things with other people in a more meaningful or easier fashion than you have been sharing before, where before you had to maybe scan something on a scanner, and then you had to attach it to email, and you have to type in all these different things. Now you just take a phone, you snap a picture, and you share it with somebody, even using Gmail if you want, or using Google Plus, or using Hangouts, and you're done. I mean, as simple as that. So very potent, very capable. I highly recommend it. If you have any questions, please drop me a line. I'll be more than happy to answer them. You can find me on, let's see, you can find me on Google Plus at these places here. I'm pretty easy to find. This is my personal profile here, and this is the business page. So either way is fine. And I'll be happy to answer whatever questions you might have. And that's it. Thank you very much. Went a little longer than I expected, but thank you for watching and have a wonderful day. Bye bye.